Hey, welcome. This is CVCS Baseball Podcast, our second episode ever. Very excited to have our special guest for the second episode, Mr. Brian Rauh. Brian Rauh of B-Rauhty Baseball and Training Facility. Brian Rauh of the Washington Nationals organization, former right-handed pitcher. B-Rauh, Chapman University, freshman National Pitcher of the Year and three-time All-American, and Brian Rauh of Laguna Hills High School, local boy in Orange County here. Brian, we are so excited to have you here at the CVCS Baseball Podcast.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and one of the things, there's a special CVCS connection with Brian Rauh. He has coached here. He started in the 2013 season and coached till the 2017 season. Some of that wasn't always full-time in the earlier years when he was still playing professional baseball. He came out and helped out. And then also, way back, he was one of my first infield lessons when I was with the Cincinnati Reds, and coming home in the off-season, I started to do group semi-private infield lessons, and Brian was one of those first groups that ever do infield lessons with me. So that was really neat. We go so far back now.
Yeah, we have some definite history, and it's fun to see how it used to be from a player to coach perspective, and then we coached together, and now we're pretty tight, and it's fun to see the relationship that we have now.
Yeah, a little known fact, people don't realize that you had a heck of smooth hands. You were quite an infielder. I remember we used to talk about if you ever made it big to the major leagues and won a gold glove, that you were going to let everybody know that it was the Bonilla infield lessons that helped with that.
Pitchers are the best athletes on the field.
Yeah. Why don't we start off with, so currently you are full-time doing your own business with the B-Rauhty Baseball and Training Facility. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Where are you located? How's that all going?
Yeah, so now we're technically it's Laguna Niguel. We have a little facility. We've been there since March of this year. I kind of started that out just for fun, honestly. Like, I was doing it back in the day during my playing days while I was coaching at CVC, and it was just for fun. As a starving minor leaguer, living off of peanut butter and jelly and top ramen, you got to make some ends meet and pay the phone bill and, rent and all that good stuff. So I did it for fun and, help out with the bills a little bit, and then I ended up really liking it. I had the opportunity to coach at CVC for a while, and again, I didn't even think I was going to get into coaching at all. I just did it more to have a place where I could work out, and then I just really enjoyed it. I connected well with the kids. Kids responded well to me, and again, it just started to turn into a passion. And I would go to spring training. I'd go play my year. I'd come back and pick kind of back up where I left off, and then just kind of built over time. And in 2017, that was my last year with the Nationals. I had back surgery, followed up by a car accident that kind of ended my playing career, which was devastating at the time. But things happen for a reason, and I truly believe that. So I actually ended up getting a corporate job for I think it was about 3 years, and did that to pay the bills and put my wife through grad school. And so basically, I would go work from 7 a.m. to 4-ish, and then go work with kids from like 5 to 9 o'clock at night. And I kind of started to sense that I was in the wrong profession in the corporate world when I would come home exhausted from that first job, and then I would have more energy at 9 o'clock at night coming back, working with kids, and like being like, I was like, man, I'm missing my purpose right now. And so I knew the writing was on the wall that I was going to jump into that as soon as my wife finished grad school and kind of got her thing going. That was kind of the end goal for me, and it blew up. I've been blessed in so many ways, and it's fun to give back and pass on the love that I have for the game and the knowledge that I have to the next generation. And look where it took us now. Now I have a facility, and we have other instructors, and we probably have 300 plus clients that come in, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. A lot of the kids that I started with back in 2012, 13 are late college or in college currently. and it's really cool to see their development and watch these kids not only develop as baseball players but as young men, and as coaches. And obviously, you know this, Chach, more than anyone. As coaches, you're not just there to teach them how to play baseball. You're trying to be a positive influence and a role model and turn them into young men. And so it's that part is I don't take lightly, and that part I really take pride in too, is to instill a good work ethic in these kids and character and good morals and play the game the right way. And because eventually at some point we are all done playing baseball, right? Whether that's after high school, college, or 20 years in the big leagues and you're a Hall of Famer, the game is going to end at some point. So it's a lot of relationships along the way, experiences along the way, impacts that you make along the way. That's what's the most important part about it, in my opinion. Again, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm just getting going, but it's a lot of fun. God has definitely put me in a position that He wants me in to reach the next generation and be a positive influence, and that's my goal with this.
Absolutely, and it's been a real treat to hear you say those things where I've had a chance to experience that with you personally, watching you from 12 years old as a young infielder and just see that progression, from high school as a little bit shorter, a little bit chubbier guy that could pitch a little bit and swing the bat a little bit to all of a sudden the 6'2", leaned out, wiry, mid-90s draft pick that you became, and then now the influence and impact that you have at B-Rauhty Baseball with the kids. It's just been amazing to see you grow up, Brian. And again, just so happy to have you here on the second episode of the CVCS Baseball Podcast. Just really excited, that Mr. Joseph Jasper has allowed us to be in here, and also our athletic prefect, Luke Leisengang, to help set us up so that we could really get this baseball podcast, off the ground and running. You had mentioned working in the corporate world and then becoming re-energized in the evenings when you started, able to coach kids. And listening to you tell your story a little bit, it sounds like some of that bug to coach or that inception of coaching may have began in your off seasons coaching with CVCS Baseball and myself, and that's just really exciting to hear. What led you to maybe the business side, the entrepreneur side of starting your own business, and also that that grit to say, I'm going to go ahead and bypass that corporate every 2-week paycheck and just start my own business?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I was a business major at Chapman with an emphasis in entrepreneurship. So my mom was a business owner. My dad still is a business owner. It's kind of in my blood. I knew that I didn't really want to work for anyone else, especially after going through the corporate thing. I'm sure some people know I'm pretty stubborn and I like things done my way. I'm type A, and that's kind of how I do things. And so I knew pretty quickly that you put my baseball background with a business major with an entrepreneurship emphasis. That's kind of like where it all came from. So all the classes I took were on starting businesses. I had to do business write-ups and all these things with finances and everything that went into it, marketing, target market, all that. So I actually I really used my major, which not everyone I guess can say, but that's kind of how I developed this business too. Because there's a lot more that goes into it. I think some people go, he coaches baseball and he give lessons and life's great, and there's a lot more that goes into it on a day-to-day life and. Having to get the facility and go through permitting, and then now we're an approved vendor for now it's 6 different charter programs. So there's a whole charter program, homeschool thing behind what we do, and then you got to talk about insurance and taxes and all this stuff. It's an all-encompassing job that it's not just show up and coach, which again is the fun part, but. I think that background that I have with the business major back at Chapman, coupled with the the baseball background, is kind of like what led me to this too. And it's a passion that I have, just like you. That's what makes you such a successful high school baseball coach is you actually care. and that's the biggest thing. It's not a paycheck. It's more of like impacting the kids that you coach, and I've heard you say in the past you've traded a CIF championship to get one more kid to go play college baseball, and that's like says a lot about you and your coaching style that has rubbed off on me. It's about getting kids to the next level if that's something that they're passionate about. So that's kind of how I got started, and that's kind of how I go about my day to day.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And what's neat is, and we both had opportunities to sign and play professionally, and we're going to get into that just right now. But I've kind of noticed that between us and other guys that we've played with, guys that we've coached, there must be something about high-level baseball and the ability to then, I guess, parlay that into entrepreneurship and business instincts. Maybe it's the work ethic or the grit. I know a future guest we're going to host on this podcast, Carson Matthews, who you know very well from your time here. He's started his own soap company. Yeah. And the times, when I was younger and was starting the baseball bat company, and just a lot of stories of guys that are building that business sense. Maybe it has to do with the work ethic as part of that, and also the business side of it. Sometimes baseball can be not just the fun game when you get to those high levels. That there really is a business side of that. And let's get into the pro stuff. So out of Chapman University, you were taken. What round were you drafted? What year was that?
11th round in 2012.
In 2012, 11th round with the Natties out of Chapman University. At that time, and correct me, is it still the soonest anyone's ever been taken in the draft out of your university?
No, it's not. There was I believe Kurt Yako was in the 8th, and then a few years later, there was another one that was in the 3rd round.
Oh, wow.
I believe, yeah.
Okay.
By the Pirates, yeah.
Well, that's great. So, I mean, Chapman is obviously a very prestigious university and becoming stronger and stronger with its athletics, and you part of that legacy. But so you get drafted. Tell me about that. Where were you when that happened, and what was the next 24 to 48 hours like for you?
Yeah, I was at home. We kind of had like a little mini, I guess you could call it, draft party. It was family and some friends and some teammates came over, and I heard my name called, and I was just kind of in shock. It's like a lifelong dream that I had as a little kid, and I just didn't really know how to react. I don't know if I said anything or much. Obviously I gave some hugs away. It was kind of all blurry, honestly. Like, it just happened really fast, and it was hearing my name after that. I don't really remember much. It was kind of a blur, but after that, I was out in Florida pretty quickly. I don't know exactly how many days, but it was pretty quick. I know we had negotiations a couple days, and then I was out there, had to get my physical, and then in a couple days after that, I was up in the Penn League in Auburn and started my pro career there. But yeah, it's a whirlwind. It happens fast. That whole first year kind of happens fast.
And where was the National Spring Training site in Florida?
They were in Cocoa Beach, Melbourne area. Now they're down in Palm Beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for our listeners, the Penn League you referred to, at that point in 2012, the New York Penn League, that was short season A-ball, correct?
Yep, short season.
Okay. And then kind of take us through how many years did you play, what levels were you at, and just the road before ultimately that 2017 year.
Yeah, so that first year I was in the Penn League, I was only in the Penn League for about 3 or 4 weeks. I think I had 18 or 19 innings in a row without a run given up, and then I had a start where I gave up 3 or 4, something like that. But I got called up after that, and then I went to Hagerstown, Maryland, which is low A, and I finished the year there. And then I started the year there the following year and was there for a couple months, and then I got called up to high A, which was Potomac, which – didn't you play in Potomac with the Reds at one point?
I was on the roster for Potomac, but I was in extended spring training rehab and a back injury. And so I actually never made it out to Potomac when I was healthy. That's when they released me. Yeah, so unfortunately. But I was in the California League the year before.
Yeah, what a lot of people don't understand about the minor leagues is the teams kind of bounce around. So they don't, it's not like, the Dodgers are always in Los Angeles. It's kind of like in the minor leagues, they have contracts. So sometimes they're with the Reds, sometimes, they're with the Nationals, and then they move on. So it can change, every couple years. But so then I was in Potomac for that year, finished the year there. I got to get called up to spring training games. Was that 2014, 15, and 16. And in 2014, I dealt with a little bit of a shoulder thing, so I was on the DL for a month, and then went back out to Potomac 2014, finished strong. We actually won the Carolina League that year. Got a ring from that. That was a lot of fun. And then the next year, 2015, I started back in Potomac again. I think I had 20 innings in a row shutout or with one run, and then got called up to Double-A, and then spent the majority of that year in Double-A.
Was that the Eastern League?
That was the Eastern League, yeah, up in Harrisburg on City Island. That's a cool place to play. You're like literally on the water. That was a fun place to play too. So I spent most of the year there. Then I had a knee surgery. I had a bone chip that was causing issues, so I had to go get that cleaned up. But I was only out for about a month and a half, and then came back, worked my way back up. I had 2 starts in rookie ball, 2 starts in low A, 2 starts in high A, back up to Double-A, finished the year there. And then in 2016, I was slated to go back to Double-A. 2016 is I got to throw in big league spring training against the Mets, which was a lot of fun. Heart was beating through the roof, obviously, but that's something you always dream of. And then at my last start before breaking for full season, my back had been acting up, and it got to a point where I couldn't really turn my hips or do anything. So I had to go get an MRI. I had 2 herniated discs, L4, L5, and L5S1. We tried to do the spinal epidurals. One worked, or the first one didn't work. Second one worked. Tried to work my way back. Was throwing again. Was building back up. 2 innings, 3 innings, 4 innings. And then here comes the back again. And I knew because I wasn't getting, how my body was moving. I was throwing across my body a little bit. Everything was cutting. That something was going to happen, and I kind of called it. I knew that my shoulder was going to be a little bit issue, and I felt it. So then I had some partial tears in the shoulder. Had to get a PRP injection. That ended that 2016 year. And so I was kind of working my way back. And then the back issue was still there. I was getting a lot of nerve pain. It was getting worse and worse. I wasn't sleeping. And so I ended up getting surgery in March of 2017. And then there was a car accident. I want to say it was a month and a half, 2 months after, kind of set me back again. And that was kind of the writing on the wall where I tried to rehab and throw eventually, but the recovery just wasn't there.
Sure.
I couldn't. I would go out and throw, and the velocity was still there a little bit, but then I couldn't walk for 10 days. And it's just that says a starting pitcher, you got to throw your 5th day. I kind of I saw it happening. So it was devastating. It was a hard pill to swallow. But like I said before, everything happens for a reason. I think God has a plan for all of us. Sometimes we don't always see exactly what it's going to be, and we don't get every in and out of what He puts in front of us. And as much as we want our path to be a straight line going upward,
Sure,
where everything's easy and smooth and clean sailing, that's just not how it goes. Life is full of ups and downs, and I'm so happy with where I'm at now. I get to spend my days now with I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I'm Mr. Mom at home, and it's so cool because I was away for 6 years, traveling and doing all that, and being away, and now I get to see my wife every day, and I get to see my kids, and be a part of that, and then I get to work with other kids, and I'm super happy with where I'm at now. I'm so blessed to be here and the position that God's put me in. So looking back, that's why. That's why He did that, and kind of ended my career and said, I'm going to take you a different way, and I'm 100% at peace with that now, and I can't
Right.
complain with where I'm at.
Well, and that's really important when you could just look in the mirror and just realize that you gave it all you had, and that ultimately it just wasn't in God's plan. I look back in my professional career as well, and you could see there's just such tremendous athletes, the best arms, the best pitchers, the best position players athletically, these hitters. There's just so many guys who we both have seen and played with who didn't end up playing in the big leagues or played very little time in the big leagues and never had a long career. And you kind of look back and think, man, it's like some of this is a little bit of luck. I think it's God's plan. It's made me think, and the young players that are listening, today, you hear Josh Randall on the first episode talk about how his path to professional baseball has been very jagged. It wasn't a straight, direct path, and God's put some obstacles in front of him. I remember when I was a kid, I used to pray quite a bit. And the way I would pray, though, would be like, I just hope, like when I was in college, I'd pray that there'd be scouts at the games and I'd go 3 for 4 with like a double and a bomb or something, or steal 3 bags and just do something crazy so that I'd get noticed. When I was in professional baseball, I would pray that, the assistant GM would be in the stands, or one of the coordinators, and that I would do something great, 3 for 4 with a double and a bomb, so that somebody would call me up to the next level. And I kind of look back on it, and I wish that I would have known how to pray a little bit differently, because I think I would have prayed for protection of my body. I would have prayed for strength in my mind and my body. There's just things where, hey, God's going to give us that work ethic. He's going to give us some ability to play this game. But at the end of the day, we got to stay healthy, and it's not always going to be that path where it's just clean and direct. And maybe for some people it is, but I was fortunate enough to see you journey through that. Ironically, actually, I never saw you pitch in professional baseball besides the inning in spring training that I got to see on TV, which was incredible, and I know we'll get back to that later. Where was it when I had a coaching assignment in Richmond, at the University of Richmond, and I was able to sneak away, and I didn't get to see you pitch, but I got to see you do some great charts.
Oh, yeah, I was good at doing the charts in the stands.
Was that Hagerstown, or was
that was Potomac.
That was Potomac. Okay.
Yeah,
I remember I drove like an hour and a half, and I was hoping to catch you on a start, and you had just thrown like the day before.
Yeah, I wasn't starting for a few days after that. Yeah.
But hey, you know what? For those POs out there, the charts matter.
Yeah.
They're important.
I actually learned a lot from watching the game, and that's like something that a lot of young kids can benefit from. Like, watch the game, be a student of the game. I felt like I actually started to learn how to sequence pitches and read hitters and kind of figure out how to attack guys by actually watching. And I didn't do a bunch of that early in my career. And once I started actually paying attention, I had a better plan going in. I could start to pick up stuff when I was the one pitching. So it's a little nugget right there. Like, watch the game, be a student of the game, and try to learn, because you can learn a lot by just watching.
Yeah, excellent point. Let's go another step into the past. Now we are at Chapman University. First, I want to say congratulations on air to the great news that you learned last week, that you've been selected to be inducted into your university's Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
How did that phone call go?
It was awesome. Doug Aiken, who I've known since my playing days back then, we stay in contact. He reaches out every once in a while or comments on my social media stuff. And, so it's not out of the ordinary that he would text me. And he just texted me and said, hey, I love watching the kids on Instagram. You got some time to chat tomorrow? I wanted to run something by you. So I didn't even think twice. I was like, yeah, let's talk in the morning. So he called me, and we just kind of shoot the breeze for a little bit. And then he merged in a few guys that are on the Hall of Fame committee. 2 of them were ex Chapman baseball players that are also on the Hall of Fame, and then one was the head Hall of Fame coordinator. And they just congratulated me. They told me that my head coach is the one who nominated Tom Trushchuk. And I just, kind of similar to the day that I got drafted, I was kind of speechless. I just sat there and listened, and got choked up a little bit. It was I'm not a super emotional guy, but the older I've gotten, I feel like the softer I've gotten when it comes to that, especially raising a little girl and whatnot. But I think as you get older and you experience more in life, you get in tune with your feelings a little more, and things start to matter a little bit more, and the experience that you had along the way, or they mean a lot too. And it was a good crazy phone call. I hung up again. I told him, I was like, I don't know what to tell you guys other than thank you. I got to process it. And then they invited me to this year's induction ceremony that following Friday, which was Devon Drag. And so I got to go there, and then they announced it at the end there. And it's cool, but I think it says a lot more about the people that have been around me than it does actually me. And I keep saying I've been blessed, but I mean I have, like, the support system I had at home with my parents, the coaches, like including yourself, that I've had growing up, the mentorship that I've had from people. Like, I just feel like God has put me in the right place that He wanted me to be. Like the head coach and the pitching coach that I had, Dave Edwards and Tom Treshuk at Chapman, I couldn't have asked for a better duo there to help me grow and turn me into a man and turn me into like a tough individual, a resilient athlete. And both of them didn't let me settle. I was one of the guys they were the hardest on, especially early on. It's because they expected more out of me and they wanted more out of me, and I'm so glad they pushed me, and they're a huge reason for the success that I had, and how I made it that far. And then it goes back to like my parents too. My parents weren't like these uber athletes, but both my brother and I played collegiate baseball, and both my brother and I played professional baseball. And I think a big part of it too that is a great lesson, and I try to tell a lot of the parents of the kids that we work with now, because just as much as we're training the kids, like we're training some of the parents too. Like, that's just how it goes.
Absolutely.
And what I try to impress on them when it comes to my parents, not that my parents did everything perfect, like no one does, we're all imperfect, but I never played with fear. I never played scared. And I think the biggest reason why is my parents were all about work ethic. They were always about, you're going to outwork other people. So it's not good enough to just go to practice. You're going to spend time on your own working on your craft. You're going to go do private stuff. You have homework with that. And so that is what they cared about more than the performance that I had in the game. And I don't ever remember, and my brother might say otherwise, but I would find it very hard to believe. I don't ever remember getting in the car and, one, being scared, but two, ever getting yelled at for a poor performance, for going 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts, or getting crushed when I pitched, or whatever it was. I don't ever remember that. Now, if I had a bad attitude, or if I was disrespectful, or I was a bad teammate, or I threw my stuff in the dugout, or anything like that, oh yeah, I got destroyed, which I deserved it 100%. But I feel like because of their approach, where I played carefree, I competed, I had fun. That's why I love the game. And I bet you if we got my brother on here, he's probably mimicking what I'm saying. And I felt like I'm so grateful for that type of parenting that they had, where it was after the game, it was like, hey, I loved watching you play. And that's like some huge advice that I try to impress upon the parents that we have with the kids that we train. It's like, I've had people text me, hey, we got a big showcase coming up. What should I tell them? And I say, nothing. Like, the work that he's done leading up is what he needed to focus on. Then you get to the game and you let it fly. You compete, you have fun, you let it rip. It's called a game for a reason. And, and again, I credit my parents for that, because, again, I think that's why I love the game and why my brother and I played for so long too. Not only the opportunities that they helped me with, and they were at everything, which is what I'm going to try to do for my kids. They were at every game. Like, they didn't miss anything, and that's half the battle as a parent too, is just showing up. And that's something that, like, I'm going to make sure I'm doing with my kids. And, like, everyone's got work and stuff, and I get that, but I'm just so grateful for my parents. I probably don't tell them it enough, but they're a huge reason to why I had a lot of success and where I ended up where I am now.
Well, I'll make sure to text the link of this podcast to your mom and dad directly, so that they get a chance to hear those props. That's really beautiful, Brian. Thank you for sharing that. And it's so true. Vanessa and I are not parents. So I would never try to tell someone how to parent. All I could tell you is I have a little bit of a clue about, high performance athletes and how to develop and raise a high performance athlete. And the more people I talk to, especially like yourself and other of our, colleagues in the groups of professional baseball or high level collegiate baseball, they kind of have a similar story when it comes to process. Is more important, outcome is secondary, that somebody in their life really was encouraging to play hard, to be a good teammate, to have great work ethic, and just let the game happen and come to you the way it does. And, I was fortunate enough that, Bonilla Sr., my father played at Long Beach State and had an idea that, hitting a baseball is hard. And nobody goes out there and makes an error and airmails a cutoff man or throws it over the first baseman's head on purpose. These things are just accidents. And if I had a bad game and or had a bad day on defense, that it was almost the opposite. Like, we're going to go have ice cream and just celebrate the fact that I'm out there playing hard. And sure enough, I end up having a lot of success. And there's not a lot of people who are out there that get to share something in common as big as being inducted to their university's Hall of Fame. But you and I will forever get to be in that elite group of our university's best of the best. And it's really neat the kind of man you are, that that honor, how you just quickly want to share that with so many different people that built you up and helped you become that player. You were a 3-time All-American. You were the freshman national player of the year. You've won 25 consecutive outings into your third year of college before you had your first loss. Not only did you have a phenomenal career for Chapman and, of course, been inducted to the Hall of Fame, but you are arguably one of the best pitchers to ever be part of the history of NCAA Division III baseball. And this should be something for kids and parents to listen to. Parents, I hope you heard what Coach Brian said there about that style, but also, Division I's a great dream. And I'm sure when you're a young kid, you want to play at the biggest Division I school possible. And then, of course, then you want to play for the Dodgers or the Angels or somebody. But Brian's a great example of a Laguna Hills High School standout, really, really nice player, but just was not getting a lot of material offers from bigger, my hands in air quotations, 4-year universities, Division I schools. And you went to where you felt that was a good fit for you, that you were most wanted, and you thrived and developed and became one of the best pitchers in the history of Division III baseball. You can get your opportunities if you can keep that uniform on and just get a chance to grow and develop. Tell us a little bit about that growth from Laguna Hills to Chapman, and how did you become that dominant pitcher for so long? In fact, didn't you end your entire career with just one loss?
One loss, yeah.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I was one of the youngest kids in my class, graduated at 17, and on top of that, I was also a late bloomer. So I remember my first license that I got said 5'7", 140 pounds on it. So that was when I was 16. Actually, I didn't get my license until I was 16 and a half. So that means that's how tall I was. That's how big I was at 16 and a half years old. So I obviously hadn't developed yet into a man. I was still a little kid. So it was almost like when I was a senior, physically I was like a sophomore. That's kind of how I explain it. Mm-hmm. So I was still a good pitcher. I was 81 to 84, and I would run it up to maybe 85 on a really good day. But so it forced me to compete, because I didn't blow anyone away. So I had to pitch backwards. I had to be smart and understand how to read hitters and try to figure that stuff out, because I wasn't just going to get up there with a big fastball and blow guys away. So I almost pitched like I had a little man complex of I got to get up there and I'm going to find a way to get it done without overpowering stuff, and that's kind of how I went about my business. Again, I still had a good high school career. I wouldn't say it was dominant by any means. I was a good high school pitcher, and still by the end of my senior year, I think I was 5'10", So like I was kind of like growing in the process. Didn't really lift weights very much, but again, like I just didn't know any better. I didn't. I worked out a little bit, but not even close. Like the culture shock going from high school to college was a completely different experience. That now I try to impress on the younger guys to like get physical early, like learn how to like use your body better because it's going to benefit you as you get older. But anyways, I didn't. That's not how I was, and so I get to. I had good grades, so I had some academic money. I remember LMU was kind of interested in me. USD was interested in me, but they were all like a walk-on. Like you can come, you'll be on the team, but that's about it. Like no guaranteed anything. Mm-hmm. And for me, I just wanted to play. That was it. I just wanted to play. I wanted to get my degree. I wanted to go somewhere, a good university that had a good track record. I just wanted to play. That was it. And at that moment, pro ball wasn't even on the horizon. Like it wasn't even a thought. Like it was when I was a kid, but it was just kind of like I just want to go somewhere and compete and be a part of something that's bigger than myself. And go to war with the guys in college. So I made the decision to go to Chapman. I always tell a lot of parents that when we have this conversation, go somewhere where you're wanted. Go somewhere where someone's knocking down the door to get you. Not everyone has multiple offers. Sometimes you have to take a chance and go somewhere. But, Dave Edwards from Chapman, who's still there, one of my favorite coaches of all time, he called me what felt like every week. Have you made your decision yet? And then, anyone who knows Eddie knows he likes to talk. And so I'm sitting there for 45 minutes. Actually, I'm not really talking. He's the one talking. But every week he called me. And he also tried, fun fact, he also tried to recruit my brother, who ended up going to UC San Diego.
Yeah.
And so he knew that because my brother Jeff was, he was on the older side in high school, and so he was already more developed, and he was upper 80s to 90 as a senior. And so I think, Eddie had a little bit of insight too of like, all right, he's not going to be 5'8" forever, and if he's throwing low 80s as a kid who's 5'8", and he's going to end up being bigger, and we can, get him on a better nutrition plan and get him in the weight room and do whatever, there's something there. So obviously I made a decision to go to Chapman. It's probably the best decision I've ever made. And I was right in the mix right away because I think there were 6 freshman pitchers that they brought in. I wasn't even the top prospect or whatever you want to call it. I wasn't even the number one guy going in. There was another guy who was like all whatever conference or whatever, whatever it was. But they lost. One of their starting shortstop and closer got drafted, and then their number one guy graduated the year before. There's a lot of innings up for grabs. And then I get there and I got my butt handed to me on a silver platter in terms of the weight room. And but again, like I wanted it and I worked hard, and it was hard. They pushed me really hard. And again, then by the end of my freshman year, I was 6'2". So in a span of, call it, a year and a half, I grew 6 inches, whatever it ended up being. And, all of a sudden I was 6'2", 200 pounds, and going from a low 80s fastball to a low 90s fastball. But I still pitched with that I don't have a big fastball mentality. And so because of how I pitched in high school and I wasn't used to blowing guys away, I had to pitch a little backwards. I had to have good command. I had to be able to pitch to all 4 quadrants and change speeds really well and change eye level. Then all of a sudden you give me a big fastball.
It's a dangerous combo.
It was like, oh my goodness, what just happened? And again, I credit a lot of it to my 2 coaches that I had at Chapman. I mean, they pushed me so hard. And there was days where it was hard. It was challenging. I got pushed past my comfort zone. But again, a lot of us don't know what we're capable of until you get pushed out of your comfort zone. And then once you get pushed out of that comfort zone, you realize what you're capable of. All of a sudden, that's your new normal. Mm-hmm. And then you push yourself past that. And a lot of times too, your mind gives up on you before your body does. So that's a lot of things. You can always do 2 more. You can always do 5 more. You can if you tell yourself that, you will do it, and then your body's going to be there with you. But a lot of guys go, I'm done. I can't do it. I can't do the extra 5 push-ups. I can't do the extra pull-up. I can't do the whatever. I'm done. And then your body gives up on you. And I felt like they did such a good job of pushing me past that, and it was never enough. It was, and they instilled this mentality that you went 7 shutout with 2 hits, like you shouldn't have given up those 2 hits. You go 7 shutout with 1 walk. Why'd you walk the guy? And it was like, always be better, always be better, always be better. And that just like stuck with me. And that's how I treated it. And it was always on to the next one. It's like, it doesn't matter about your last outing, your last inning, it's on to the next one. And that's why I tell all my kids, I've said it to everybody, I say it all the time. I say, you're only as good as your next pitch, right? And that's for everything, right? Good or bad, right? You have a bad at-bat, who cares? Move on to the next one. You have a good at-bat, who cares? Move on to the next one. And when you have that short-term memory, because this game is too hard. It's too hard. It's a failure sport. If you have that short-term memory where you can just move on, good or bad, and just approach the next one, that's how you get continued success. That's how you create consistency. But a lot of times we're too emotional. And I say we. I was like that too. I had to learn how to control my emotions. But we get too emotionally attached to our previous pitch or at bat or inning or whatever it is, and then it's hindering our progress moving forward. And it's such like a lesson that I had to learn, because again, I was such a rocky up and down pitcher in high school. It was like I would have a really good outing and then a terrible one, and then a really good one and a terrible one. But a lot of it boiled down to work ethic, in terms of like I didn't really have a good throwing program or a good approach in high school, or like I didn't really know what I was supposed to be doing. So when I had a really good outing, I would kind of like coast the next week. You know, like it was just kind of like, oh, cool, I threw really well, so I'm going to be good next week too. And then I go out there and, well, I wonder why I didn't pitch well. It's because my preparation was garbage. And I didn't learn, again, until really college, when it was play catch with a purpose. Like every throw matters. Like taking it down to the specifics of you're doing things with a purpose always. And when you have intent behind why you do things, it's not actually about the quantity, it's about the quality. So if you are doing high quality reps again and again and again, I would rather have 20 high quality reps than 100 reps of who knows what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And that's so important in terms of like developing high elite level athletes, is taking pride in little details that you think are not that big of a deal, right? And I remember like big leaguers still hit off the tee. Like big leaguers still, you know, if they're working on ground balls, like they're on 2 knees without a glove on, working on their fingertips down to the ground. Like they're doing the little stuff that a lot of us think that we are too good to do. And it's so important for the younger guys to understand they're in that position because they take pride in the little details. They're in that position because they are so good at doing the little things. They are never too good to keep working on the little stuff. And again, that hit home in college for me. And again, I attribute a lot of that to the college coaches that didn't let me get away with anything.
That's amazing. And that just shows you, you know, imagine the kids that we're speaking to here, if they could figure that out sooner than we did at the high school level, they might be, you know, at the level that they really want to be by the time they're 20, 21 years old, instead of wishing this or wishing that. And this game can be cruel, and learning how hard the competition could be because they weren't prepared. You know, and emotional composure is just part of mental toughness. Yep. And it sounds like you learned a lot of that toughness and that culture from college. You know, a lot of the things I teach from a skill set perspective are things that I picked up with the Cincinnati Reds or the Baltimore Orioles. I know Freddie Benavides at that time was our infield coordinator, and he was actually just the interim big league manager for the Reds, and now he's going to be their bench coach. And I learned a lot of skill set stuff, but I think the mentality of toughness and culture, the things that you just spoke on, I feel like same as you, a lot of that I was able to learn from my college days, and it was just so paramount that you pick that stuff up if you're going to even have a shot of lasting at the next levels. You mentioned about your brother, Jeff Rauh, who I've had the pleasure of hanging out with and being friends with for quite a while as well. I know he signed out of UCSD at the time. UCSD was a Division II program, very strong Division II program. So just another example of not always having to go to Division I to try to catch your dream. And then he signed with the St. Louis Cardinals just a little bit before you had signed.
Right afterwards.
Right afterwards.
Yeah.
I know in high school there was a time where, tell me, was it 1 year where you guys were like the 1 and 2 together, or did you guys miss that time frame?
No. So He was 14-1 as a senior. He had like an unbelievable senior year. It was
And
like
this is at Laguna Hills.
at Laguna
High School.
Hills. Yeah, he's a year and a half older than me, but a year older than me in school. So I was on the younger end. He was on the you call it older end or whatever. But no, I was sitting behind three ex-pro guys that ended up playing professional baseball also. It was John Lamb, my brother, and then Ryan Wertenberger. So, like, I was behind those guys who are all – Wertenberger played for the Marlins, and then Lamb was in the big leagues with the Reds and the Angels, and then obviously my brother. So I was kind of sitting behind them, and I got some varsity innings my junior year, but I also got a lot of JV innings my junior year too, which is another thing that, like, people freak out about like, I want my kid to play varsity as a freshman or sophomore. It's like, no, you need your kid to go develop. You need him to get reps and experience and all that, and I feel like that's what they did a good job of there too. Is I would be on varsity one game of the week and maybe get an inning, and then I would start on JV. So I still had a ton of innings and reps, and then the next year is when I took over the number one spot because those guys all graduated.
Oh, wow.
And then that's kind of how it went.
Oh, that's incredible. That's good to know. Yeah. So just not only picking colleges, but just understanding the patience of the level of high school that you're at and where you can get more opportunities and develop there, instead of just being upset that you're not the kid being called up to varsity, right away. That's really neat. Thanks for sharing that as well. So there's another CVC connection besides the fact that you and I had met when I started giving you infield lessons years ago, before I had even been a part of CVCS. But then I became a high school coach. So my pro career had ended. I was 27 years old. I knew that it was time for me to move out of the baseball playing realm, and I really, from the lessons, kind of like you, just started to realize that coaching might be something that I could be good at, that I was passionate about. And I was able to take this opportunity here at CVCS. And then the first year they had me as a walk-on off-campus coach. And then they presented me with that opportunity to be a full-time coach, which, again, coming through with the college, I had a degree, and it afforded me the opportunity to be able to be a full-time employee in education. So those are those guys that are wondering if they should go back and get their schooling done after they sign. You have 21 units left. I definitely think you should go back and sign.
Yeah,
you did the same thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and if you wait too long, it's going to just only be harder and harder. So, but back to that connection, I remember there was a quick time your parents had called and they were looking at potentially bringing you over to CVCS. We were thinking about transferring. Our great relationship since you were a little kid in the family, and I just think, wow, imagine having you in the mix in my early years of coaching. Although CIF and the rules back then were much more strict, there wasn't the sit-out period that there is now. Back then, you had to literally sell your house and move districts to be able to be qualified for a transfer. And once we found out the difficulty of that, it laid that to rest pretty quick. But just imagining your senior year, which would have been 2009. Yes. Or was that, yeah, yep. And then you would have, you and Andre Argys would have played together. Andre Argys, one of our former superstar CVC athletes, was the athlete of the year for his senior year and junior. He went back-to-back years of athlete of the year. He was our quarterback, was our shortstop, one of the best hitters to this day that I've ever coached. That would have been really neat to have you two together. And little known fact, you guys played Little League together, right? You have a story on Andre Argys?
Oh, yeah. He only kid in Little League to hit a home run off me. So
awesome.
Wind was blowing out, no, I'm just kidding. No,
it was a tornado to right center.
Yeah. No, he's a great guy. I've known him for a long time, and nothing but good things to say about him. But yeah, he was an absolute stud. Always has been. Oh,
that's cool. I hope we're going to have Andre Argys on this podcast show before the year's out. So now we're getting down to the end here, and we want to just end with this segment that we're going to call Players Want to Know. The players want to know. This is the current CVCS players that have been asked. I picked a few. You had a lot of questions coming in, but there's just a few here that really stuck out to me. And so I'm going to start off. And again, I know you're going to get kind of caught by surprise maybe on some of these, but just whatever comes to you right away, just give us a quick story about it. Senior Jack Gallo, who is a outfielder / infielder, he wants to know, what was the bigger jump? High school to college or college to professional baseball?
Okay, so I don't know if there's I could say both for different reasons, and I'll explain that. So from high school to college, I feel like it was a bigger culture shock in terms of you eat, sleep, breathe, everything's baseball. You go to the weight room, you got your agility work, you got to go to classes, then you have night practice or whatever it is. It's everything, and like it was a lot different than high school. Like in high school, we didn't have weight room. Like it wasn't, I know now it's a little bit different, but we didn't have weight room. Like it's just not something we ever did. And so going from high school to college where it's like you're expected to go in and handle your business in the weight room, and we had other days where we're doing more agility stuff and things of that nature, conditioning, all that kind of stuff. That was harder for me because going from college to pro ball, I already had it. Like I knew how to lift, I knew how to work out. I was already explosive and strong. So like that part was kind of the same. Now when you're talking about the actual game of baseball, I think it depends on if you're a pitcher or a hitter. Where pitching translates. If you have a low to mid 90s fastball, you're not going to all of a sudden lose the low to mid 90s fastball. That plays at the next level. So as a hitter, it's a little bit different. If you're in high school and you're facing a bunch of guys that throw, let's call it low 80s, and then you go to college and everyone's low 90s, that's a big jump. Same thing going from college to pro ball. You're getting all these guys that are mid 90s with wipeout breaking stuff. It's probably a bigger jump going from college to pro ball for hitters is my guess, and you can speak more to that. But from the pitching standpoint, I felt like, for me personally, because I was underdeveloped and I wasn't so physical and developed yet in high school, that was the bigger jump. I do remember, though, I did psych myself out a little bit in my first pro outing because I was going from basically being a big fish in a little pond to a little fish in a big pond, where now it's like these are all pro guys. And so I remember, like, I'm getting out there, I'm like, I'm having those thoughts just like everyone does. I'm a human being too. Am I good enough? Do I deserve to be here? Is my stuff going to play? And that's kind of what was going on in my head before the outing. And then once I got on the mound, I threw the first pitch. It was kind of back to business. And I think I struck out I threw 2 innings in my first outing, 4 out of 6. I think maybe it was 3 out of 6. Don't quote me on that. But it was a good outing, regardless. It was a good outing. And when I walked off the mound, I go, it's the same game. It's the same game. Nothing changes. Maybe the guys are a little bit bigger, but if I pitch my game, I execute my pitches, I do what I need to do, I'm going to put guys away. And so after that, like, it was kind of like status quo, back to normal, and I kind of fit in right away, in my opinion.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I think you answered that beautifully. Let's go to the next players want to know. Senior Chris Wilkins, right-handed pitcher. How do you keep yourself under control during the big games?
It's a good question. Any athlete who tells you they don't feel nervous or nerves is probably lying. I would say that's a normal thing, like the butterflies. Like that also means you care. So like that's a normal thing, especially younger guys that are listening. Like if you're nervous, like that's okay. Like that's how it goes. But again, trust your training. Trust that what you've done, if you put the work in ahead of time, you're gonna go perform. So for me though, I know that I had a focal point in every stadium, and I would look there and take a deep breath. And that was like when you feel you feel your heart rate going up, you feel the big moment. There's guys in scoring position late in the game. You could feel your heart pounding out of your chest. Like you got to slow the game down because the game speeds us up. So I remember I always had a spot in every stadium, and I would just look at the same spot and take a deep breath, and kind of like slow it back down and then get back to business. And then I kind of learned from another coach, to keep it light and keep it funny. And so I had in my big league outing in spring training, Mike Maddox, who was a pitching coach for the Nationals at the time, back when Dusty Baker was a coach. I go out there and I wasn't even supposed to get in the game, and the couple of pitchers before didn't do so hot, so they threw me in there, and I get out there, they make a mid-inning change. I think there's one out, and I'm nervous. I can feel like my heart, and I'm running out there, and I get to the mound, and he goes, "Are you nervous?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Pull my finger." And I'm like, what? He's like, pull my finger. And I pulled his finger, and you can guess the rest.
Oh,
like,
no.
Yeah, he ripped one, and it was nasty. And then he walks away. That was it. Then he walks away. And I'm standing there, and I'm just, one, in a cloud of terrible smell, but two, like, I'm kind of like laughing at the situation, and the nerves were gone. It was gone. Like, I got on the mound, and it was just like, boom, back to where I want to be. I didn't even feel any nerves, and it was just kind of like, they do it to be funny, but like, what are you going to tell a guy in pro ball that knows what he's there to do? Like, you're going to tell him to, like, come on, throw strikes? Like, like, that's like the little league mindset of, like, throw strikes. Like, everyone knows that. And so, like, what a lot of those guys do, and I have multiple stories like this, but a lot of those guys do is they want to pull you out of that pressure. I got to, like, perform right now and just, like, get back to being free and easy and, like, loving the game and competing. And that's what he did. And from that moment on, too, like, I get into games and, I'm seeing if there's a cute girl in the stands, or I'm looking around, like, trying to, like, find something to, like, get me out of that, like, stressful moment. That's kind of how I would stay under control and calm. It's a good question.
That was great. Thanks for that question, Chris Wilkins. Question number 3 comes from a CVCS alumni, former corner infielder, class of 2018, who's the older brother of a current senior, Will Casaretti. Nick Casaretti
Snacks.
would like to know, what was your favorite snack before you would go into pitch in the clubhouse?
He would ask that question. Snacks is his nickname. I actually nicknamed him that when I was coaching at CVC, so that's a very funny comment. Favorite snack? Man, I feel like I ate pretty healthy in pro ball, but I do have a sweet tooth. Love Sour Patch. So that was my thing, was Sour Patch, and then also with Spitz seasoned seeds.
Okay.
And you put the Sour Patch in the seeds, and you take a handful, and the flavor of the Sour Patch comes through with the seed. It's unbelievable. If you've never tried it, try it. Don't write me off just because you're hearing the sour candy with sunflower seeds. Don't write me off. Don't knock it till you try it. I had it all the time, and it was awesome. And I've actually I took it to CVC, and a lot of the CVC kids were doing it when I was still coaching there. I don't know if it's still a thing anymore, but yeah. Don't knock it till you try it.
Okay, don't knock it till you try it. I'll have a quick question for you. I mean, both of us are strong Christians in our faith, so it's kind of just fun. I don't really believe much about superstitions, but I know a lot of our baseball teammates, former teammates, have that. But I do remember even being, when I was a young kid, I had a coach, I think Little League, who said to never step on the chalk line, on the foul lines, right? So even though I don't really believe that's going to make a difference with me going 3 for 4 over 4, it just stuck with me, so I'd always jump over the foul line, never stepped on the chalk. And then as I got older, one thing that I sort of developed was brushing my teeth. I just needed to brush my teeth before the game. And no matter, whether I had eaten or not eaten, I just felt like if there was some, piece of lunch stuck in between my teeth or something, it was going to affect the way that I was concentrating when the 95-mile-an-hour fastball was coming in, and I would foul my pitch off or something. So I brushed my teeth vigorously before all my professional baseball games. Do you have any kind of quirk or superstition that you can remember from college or professional?
Well, I used to have the same meal in college before my starts. Every night I would usually go to Chipotle and get a chicken bowl and have some variation of that. And you want to know what I had for dinner before my one loss?
You didn't have Chipotle?
I had In-N-Out.
Wow, that
haunts me to this day.
That's crazy. Yeah. Okay, good to know. I'm glad I asked that question.
Yeah.
All right, we're running out of time here, Brian. So we're gonna go one last question. This is from the Players Want to Know. Senior Heath Carlson. All right, shortstop for us. He just wants to know, what was your favorite game moment? Could be professional or could be college. Just your favorite game moment.
I got, and the two come to mind. Both are in college. One, we were playing Keene, Kane. They were ranked second in the nation. It was my sophomore year of college. Still hadn't lost a game to that point. They were second in the nation. I think we were like 14th, something along those lines. And it was a big game. It had playoff implications. And I remember they're like 2, 3, 4 hitters. They're all draft guys. The first inning, I gave up a double with a guy on base. The guy scored. And then I think I walked a guy. Anyways, it ended up being first and third. They already scored a run. And they did this little pickle play where the guy in first, runs halfway to second and then stops kind of thing. And then they try to get a rundown, right? And so I stepped off. I gave the ball up to the shortstop, which is what you're supposed to do. And then you're supposed to go back up home or, it kind of half and half depending on where the play is going to go. It's usually home. And so actually it is home. But anyways, they ended up leaving from third and trying to score. And the shortstop, I think the throw was late, whatever. The guy scored. And I remember I got the ball back. I was close to their dugout. And Canes in New Jersey, these are all New Jersey boys. They travel really well. And they're loud. And there's a lot of choice words and trash talking for the dugout. Telling me I was done and the game's over and that was going to be my first loss of my career. And so at that time it was 2-0 now. And I turned and told them that's the last round they're going to score. And that was in the first inning. And then the ninth inning, we took the lead. It's 3-2 now. I'm still in there in the ninth. And they had a guy in first and third with 2 outs, and they tried that same play. And I remember it went through my head fast. And I was like, if anyone's going to lose this game, it's going to be me. And I was like, I'm not going to let that happen again. So they did it. The guy ran halfway, stopped, and I just stepped off and waved him to second, basically told him to go to second. And then I struck out the next guy, and the game was over. And it was like a big deal, big win. And that was one of the most fun I've ever had pitching. Again, they were top in the nation at that point. That one was a big one for me.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
And also knowing that in the ninth inning you stepped off and remembered that the runner on third priority and was able to just let him continue on and make that big pitch. Brian, this was just such a treat to have you here on our second episode of the CVCS Baseball Podcast. It was really extra neat for me just because I've known you since you were 12 years old, and to see you grow up and now to have such a friendship with you, and and our wives have become great friends, and just love your family. You're such a great father. It's good to know that if your son or daughter ever become athletes, or even if they're not athletes and they're just in a moment of their lives that might be conceived as pressure-packed moments, that Coach Maddox is going to be lingering out there and in your mind, and you're going to have your finger out ready to pull finger and give a nice crop dust to Beckett, and he'll move on and be ready to go. So. Thanks again for stopping in. And, of course, we're going to try to get you on as a regular guest moving forward. And for the experience of winning a CIF championship in 2014 and for you being a big part of that in the off-season training of our pitchers and just all the other big moments that hopefully CVC is going to be in, that you're in one way or another going to be a part of with all the training that you're doing to the kids. Whether it's on a team or now privately, we just appreciate you, man, and wish you the best moving forward.
Thank you so much. It's been fun. I had a great time on here.
This episode has been a production of the Capistrano Valley Christian Schools Podcast Network. Capistrano Valley Christian Schools is a Christian JK-12 school in San Juan Capistrano, California. Be sure to check out, subscribe to, and leave a review of this show and the other shows on our network on your podcast player of choice. Doing so supports the school community in a multitude of ways. For more information about the CVCS Podcast Network or any of our other shows, check out cvcs.org or email podcasts@cvcs.org. On behalf of the whole network, this is Mr. Jasper saying thank you again for listening, and stay tuned for more.